Hi guys, let's get crafting. Today I'm going to finish up the lining for the purse pattern that I did the last video that I did. And I'm going to go ahead and use the first purse that I made, and we're going to line the inside of it with fabric. Alright, so I don't know if you can see this. I will have a link for this typed out in the description below, so that you can see how to do it. So what you want to do is, the purse block was 8 by 8. So we need to figure out how much fabric we need to go inside of this to account for the bottom, which is about 3 inches, and the sides, which are about 3 inches. So in order to do that, you have to add 8 plus 8, because 8 plus 8. We're just going to work on the length first. So it would be 8 on this side and 8 on this side, because we're going to have to make the lining go from the front to the bottom to the front. So that would be 8 plus 8, which is 16. And we need 3 inches for the bottom and 1 inch for the top seam. So that comes out to 20 inches. So your fabric will be 20 inches in height. Now you can cut your fabric on the fold, and then it would be 10 inches. So you'd have 10 on one side and 10 on the other. It just has to equal 20. Now the width. So this is 8 inches wide, and we have 3 inches for the sides. So you need 1.5 inches and 1.5 inches. So that equals 3 anyway. So you need the width of your block, the front, 1.5 inches for each side, which is 3, plus 1 more inch for the seam, because your seam allowance will be 1/2 inch on each side of the purse. So that will be 12 inches. So your fabric will need to be cut 20 inches by 12 inches. Now, before you start sewing up the edges, which I went ahead and sewed this on a sewing machine, but you can sew it by hand, no problem. You just want a half inch seam on each side, and I did mine on the fold, and I made a bottom for it. So how you make the bottom is you fold up the bottom 3 inches tall, iron that, and then you iron one side 1.5 inches over this way, and then the other side 1.5 inches. And then you fold that in, you fold that inside, you fold 1 inch here and 1 inch on this, 1.5 inches here and 1.5 inches on that side, and you fold that together, and then you can iron it and then sew up your seams and sew up this seam, both sides. Now I'm going to turn it right side out so you can see. See how nice corner that makes? Just automatically. Just makes that nice corner. And then you've got a bottom for your purse. All right. Now, before I put the lining into the purse, I am going to make a pocket. You can make however many pockets you want. You can make them any size that you want. I made my pocket 6 inches by 6 inches. And then I sewed all the sides, except I left a small hole so that I could turn it right here. And when I'm going to put that on the bottom. So here's the purse. And you just have to figure out where you're going to put it. I'm going, let's see, we need 1 inch from the top, at least. So, and this will be the bottom of the bag. So you can put your pocket anywhere you like. First, I'm going to check the lining with the purse to make sure of the length that I'm going to have left over. So it looks like a little bit over 1 inch. So I can go ahead and decide where I want the pocket. It's going to be a little bit over 1 inch. So I'm just going to eyeball it. And you could, what you want to do is sew it down 3 sides. So you're going to sew it down this side, down the bottom, and back up to the top, and leave the top open. And now you have a finished pocket with fabric on both sides, right sides of the fabric on both sides. Now I'm going to do that, and I'll come right back. All right, the pocket is sewn in. You can sew that by hand. There's the pocket. So now we want to turn this wrong side out. Because we want the inside to be showing when we do sew it to the bag. So you're just going to stuff it in. And get it all the way to the bottom. You fill it with your hands. Now, we're going to see how much fabric we actually do have. So it looks like I have almost 2 inches. So I'm going to take that to my iron and fold that down by about 1 3/4 inches. All right, I decided to just do 1.5 inches and see what happens. here's my pocket. And let's put this bag back in. And remember, it's wrong sides out. You just stuff it in. You can put more pockets in. You can put 2 or some side pockets, however you like. All right. What you want to do is line up your seam with about the middle of your side and just a little bit under where you want to, where the top edge is. And I'm going to use these little clips to hold that in. You'll want to go to the other side and find the middle of this side and put another clip. All right, now we just have to, since crochet is stretchy, we just have to try to find, make sure we've got the right size. And then, let's see, I've got that up too high. We need to go down to the original before we put on the extra. Okay. All right, I need to use a pin here. All right, I wasn't thinking about the extra on the top part, so here's our seam. We'll just put that right there, pin it, and now we can start rearranging it. Okay, that's about right. Go ahead and clip it in place. Clip it in place, and of course you can readjust it as you're sewing, but at least this will help hold it down while you're sewing. Okay. So clip it here and clip it here. Now on some bags you could just sew this on the sewing machine, but this is really thick yarn and I thought it would not be very good. So now we've got the lining in place, and all we need is to thread our needle with a good length of yarn. I always double my, length of thread. I always double my length of thread while I'm doing something like this. And I'm just going to whip stitch this. I'm using a Coats & Clark mercerized cotton. This was something I would have used when I had my quilting machine, my quilter, to quilt the quilts with, and It's a very strong thread, but you can use any thread you want. I just decided to use this nice variegated color that I had already. So you just want to start somewhere, and I'm going to start so I can hide the thread tail in place underneath, and then I'm just going to whip stitch this shut. I'm not going to take very long stitches. Kind of smaller ones, because once you get items in your purse, it'll tug down on it a bit, so you want it strong. That's why I use 2 thread, 2 instead of 1. Just pull it tight. Just go back where you came out of. Make sure you catch the yarn. You definitely want to catch the yarn. Otherwise, it'll just be flying free, and your lining will not work very well. You don't have to go all the way through to the outside. Just catch the yarn like that, and then go over a bit and come back up through the lining if you've never sewn before. It's not very hard. It's just a matter of taking it slow. This makes a really nice finish. You might have to readjust your sometimes I can't think of words for what I want to say. The clips. You might have to readjust those as you go. I hope I'm not the only one that has that problem. Okay. Now let's see where we are. Okay, everything looks good. I'll make one more stitch, and then I'll adjust the clip, move it over a hair, more than a hair. There we go. See, that looks really nice and finished. I had made myself a crocheted purse, probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I put a lining in it, and I still have that purse. As a matter of fact, I just quit using that purse, to switch over to something different, but I hadn't changed it out for a long time, the whole time that I had it. And make sure everything's still in line. Okay, we can take this clip out and move it over. I all of a sudden discovered Vera Bradley purses and I love Snoopy, so I had to get me a Vera Bradley Snoopy bag. So that's the one I'm using right this minute. Maybe I can do one of these crochet purses and get some Snoopy fabric and put it on mine. Another purse. Maybe I'll do that. I think that sounds good. Okay, get rid of that clip. You can go as far down as you want, but I like the lining right close to the top. Move that one out of the way. Like I said, the most difficult part of this is holding it in place and making sure you're getting the yarn, because what I was wanting to say about the purse I already made is that my lining and the crochet has lasted all those years. No problems. Nothing broke loose that I had to fix. And like I said, I took it everywhere. I like to go nice and slow doing this sewing. I actually like hand sewing. I like hand piecing quilts. But I really like crochet. I like knitting too. Been doing them both for years. All of them for years. Okay, see, I need to cut that. Already wove it in. All right. Speaking of Snoopy, got my Snoopy shirt on. All right. Getting close to the pin. We've just about made it over one side. Oh, we're getting close, guys. Getting close. Okay, I want to take that pin out. Looks like I didn't give myself enough yarn, thread. There, we made it halfway. I'll make sure that's even. Okay, looking good. getting ready to knot this. And to do that, you just pull up a loop, pull it tight, go back through, stick your needle through that loop, pull it tight. Let's do it again. And then what I'm going to do is put the, just like you would when you're crocheting, I'll put that through there, through the inside, and cut that off. Alright, now let's get some more thread. I like using cotton thread. It's pretty strong. I mean, quilting machines are pretty speedy. They have, you know, you're turning and going lots of different ways. And this yarn held up quite well under that pressure. Alright, so going to knot this yarn with the two ends together, just like that, and we'll start like we did before. Alright, now I'm going to hide this knot as well. Okay, stick that under there. All right. I debated on whether or not to keep the video going for this whole time, but I thought it would probably be a good idea, especially for beginners. I think I'm going to try this pattern with a different handle or strap, with a more like a strap than a handle. I really like granny squares. I've been fascinated with them for many years. Get it in the right spot. Some people like to use a thimble while they're sewing. I never have, unless I was quilting. So you could use a thimble if you're having trouble with the end of this needle hurting your finger. When I first started sewing, they definitely, or at least I wasn't aware of these clips. I used pins all the time. And I'll tell you what, these clips are awesome. Way better than using pins on projects for sewing or quilting. Now I had bigger clips for quilting, but I never knew there were some that were sewn. So see, we're right almost to the end and it's perfect size. And if you're off a little bit, you can always stretch your yarn just a tad. It's pretty forgiving. You want to, when you get to these holes, you want to make sure that you're getting the yarn, you know, the chain ones in between each granny cluster. We're almost done. Dropped it. All right. We're getting there. See the light at the end of the tunnel. All right, I'm going to finish off where I started. All right, now we're going to knot the thread again. One more time. Okay. I'll just run it through. Cut it off. All right. Push that lining down in there. And there you have it. A very nice lined purse. Plenty of room. You got your little pocket for whatever little items you want to put in there. And now I'm going to try something new right in front of you guys, which is kind of scary. I'm going to try a snap. Okay, so I'm going to put the snap right on that center granny cluster. I've never done this before, so let's see what happens. Maybe I should move this. That was my little plant with all the rocks. Oh goodness. I don't know how many times I've knocked that over. Now my grippers aren't very good. When I'm talking about my grippers, I mean my hands. See if we can get this over this yarn. I don't think it was made for this kind of yarn. It's pretty thick yarn. Nope, I don't think it's going to work. Okay, so that snap will not work on this, but I'm sure it will work on a smaller yarn or fabric. So this is the project, and I'm going to try a different kind of snap. I just couldn't, I know that I bought them before, but I couldn't find where I put them. So anyway, this is the purse with the lining. Just like that. And now you can put your things in this crocheted granny square purse without worrying if they are going to fall out. And it still looks great. The granny square still looks nice. And I may go to the store before I end this video and try another one. We'll see. I'll pause it for now and I'll catch you later. Alright guys, so I've decided to not do the snap since I didn't have one that worked, and I am going to use a zipper. And what I did here was I chained I think it was 34, and I'm going to sew that to this zipper, and then I'm going to sew that onto the bag. So I'm just chaining 34, let's see if that's about right. No, looks like it was more. It's been a day since I've done this. I didn't write it down. So let's try some more. Okay, looks like 45. But you'll have to, if you put the chain on, if you put the zipper on and do it the way I did it, then you will have to, this zipper is 9-inch zipper. And so whatever zipper you use, whether it's I don't know if they make an 8, I don't think they do, so it would have to be a 9. So just make it long enough to cover just towards the end, past the zip, and then up a little bit past the zipper pull. Alright, so now what I did is I just single crocheted in the second chain from the hook, and then single crocheted all the way across to the end of the chain, and I did that a couple of times. I think I made 3 rows, if I can remember right. Alright, so I will finish this single crocheting this chain and do the other rows, and I'll meet you back when I'm done. Alright, I don't think I mentioned I'm using Red Heart Super Saver in the color Turquoise. I don't know how to pronounce that, but that's the color. And just a worsted weight, and just make 2 of these. And what I'm going to do is actually sew with a regular needle and thread, and I'm going to get some extra thread a longer piece so that we can, I'm going to use the same thread that I used before to sew the lining on. Okay, I'm going to knot this. I've got this pinned down with my clips. I'm just going to sew the strip of yarn onto the zipper. And I'm just going to use running stitches to do that. And you want to just stay right up to the zipper threads, not get into the thread of the zipper. Just want to keep going. And pull on it, make sure it's tight, not leaving any gaps. These clips are really handy for this. You don't have to stick your fingers with a needle to work around it. Move this one over a little. Move it down. Dropped it. Just want to keep making running stitches. All the way down. You don't have to make your strip to go all the way to the end. All right. Now I'm just gonna make a knot. All right, and I will sew the other one off camera. All right, and this is what it looks like. You can zip it, unzip it, and zip it with no problems. And now what we're going to do is, with the same yarn, the worsted weight, we're going to sew this inside our lining just a hair. All right, now what we want to do is clip the zipper into the hole where we want it. We want it right up against the top of the crochet bag before the last few rounds. And I'm going to start right here. Pull up a loop. Make a chain. And now I'm going to work in the tail as I go, and just put your hook into the next top chain, single crochet on the zipper, and single crochet. Just keep doing that. Let's see, we've got, let's move this clip. All right, let's go into this. You can just work it in the best you can. Just crochet right along the top edge. Just like that. I'm just going through the back or the front loop of the purse part and both loops of the zipper part. Just like that. You could also just slip stitch if you like that look better. I'm going to leave that tail so I can work it back the other way. And since I'm using a different weight of yarn for the zipper, you might have to make 2 stitches in one of the purse stitches. Which is not a problem. Just keep going across. Now, we want to stay at the same height for this zipper. So we're going to have to crochet into the stitches right above where you put the lining. You just pull up a stitch in the side of the stitch on the purse side and just single crochet or slip stitch in it, whichever you prefer. Just find that stitch right there, any one that you can get your hook into. Doesn't really matter. All you want to do is make sure that this is centered with the seam of your liner. Some of these stitches I have are a little bit tight. There we go. Do one more. Okay. Going to fasten off there. Now that side is sewn in. I can sew the other side in. Get some more yarn. Start in the corner. I'm having a little trouble with this on this side, just because of the angle, I guess. Pull that through. Let's just start like this. Okay, find the center. There it is. Yep, we're right at the center. Let's go over here. Pull that back so I can fasten it the opposite direction and just keep going. It's a little bit easier on this part between the handles. Now we're back over to the edge. You could also sew this with a needle and thread, but I think it'd be stronger with the yarn. Find me a good spot. Make sure that's down in there where it needs to be. Okay, I'm going to fasten that off. All right, now I'm just going to push this part down into the purse. And I started before I ended this part, or I didn't start at the beginning because I wasn't sure how this was going to work out, but it looks really good, so I'll finish up that side. And if I were you, I would go ahead and start on the edge and not be a chicken like me. I think I'll start right about here. That way I'll just fold that part underneath. Okay, get that through. It's a little fiddly, but it's definitely doable. just going to slip stitch into the beginning of where I started. All right, and that is your bag with a zipper. Now you have a nice closure for your bag, pocket, a lining, everything. There we go. Nice zipper closure. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe and comment on my videos. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Bye-bye. P.S. guys, I didn't like how my third row on this handle made this kind of floppy, and so I thought I would try to make, straighten it out a little bit. So I ran a strand, 2 strands of yarn together of worsted weight through the middle, which made this stand up way straighter and not curl. So I'll show you how I did it. Let's see, I went through the front first. Okay, just start right about there. And then I came back through the back. Just 1 stitch, and then I'm going to grab that loop so we don't have to tie that off, and just pull it tight. Oh, I'm not in the right spot. I need to be in the middle of the okay, the middle, which is right here. And now pull up the loop, pull it tight, and then go back through, and then every other you're going to go in and out like that. Pull it tight. That's if yours curls, you can do this. If yours doesn't curl, then that's great. If you use smaller weight yarn, it won't curl as much. This is a really thick, this Sweet Roll Bold is a really thick yarn. So I'm kind of going in and out, pulling it a little tight, not too tight where it bunches up. Okay. Now 1 row does pretty good, but if you go back through, it makes it a whole lot better. So I'm going to go back through and come up the opposite side and making this going into the stitches that I didn't go into before, making it a line. just like that. All right, and see how that makes your handle not as wavy. All right, so I'm going to finish this off. Whoops, let's go into the next one. And now let's go down into there, and I'm actually going to go below. I'll open up the zipper and go below. And I'm going to tie it off in here. And just weave that over a little. Down into the edge. In between the bag and the lining. And cut it off. And poke that back in. There we go. And now the handles are much more manageable. And I also want to say that I went ahead and I sewed in the edges and the little bands on the zipper to the lining, to the crochet stitches right above the lining. That way when you open and close it, it doesn't wiggle around. And there we have it. Thanks again, guys. Have a great week. Bye-bye. All right, and here is kind of the math for the lining. I'm trying to get it. For some reason the light's not very good. All right, guys, thanks.